Our judgment has been reserved in the multiple murder case of former police officer Rosemary Ndlovu. Earlier today, during the closing arguments, Ndlovu's lawyer struggled to respond to the judge's tough questions on some of the evidence against his client. Ndlovu is accused of plotting to kill family members as well as her boyfriend to cash in on insurance and funeral policy payouts. Our reporter Linda Mnisi is following that story for us and joins us live now from the court. Linda, if you could take us through some of the key arguments that were put forward by both the prosecutor and Advocate Soko.
Well, Tammy, you'll remember that here in this particular case, the state had to prove its case beyond a reasonable doubt, setting out all its evidence. Of course, we've heard how they've brought about 52 witnesses to the stand to try and corroborate their story. So today, after, of course, weeks and weeks and months even, because if you look at this trial, it started around July. Now, after months of leading their evidence, of course, we are reaching the end of this particular trial. The state arguing that Rosemary Ndlovu did, of course, operate in a particular fashion. The state relied on circumstantial evidence as well as, the common facts or similar facts, as the state put it, saying that, in fact, it was quite clear in, some of the family members' cases, including the boyfriend, how she was always within the vicinity when either a body was discovered, and looking at the days in which, it took to claim for these monies, also looking at the period in which the said person, the said target, would have been, insured for. So saying that there was a particular modus operandi that Rosemary Ndlovu used in this particular manner, and this is set out in the evidence that is brought by, of course, their witnesses. The defense also having to come and counter with what the state has had to say. You'll remember the onus is on the state to prove its case, but the judge quickly reminding the defense that beyond reasonable doubt does not necessarily mean not without a shadow of doubt, therefore inviting the defense to counter the state's claim, the state's allegations, as well as its, evidence. But of course, we saw the defense kind of struggling to kind of answer some of the questions, but making, of course, submissions that the state's evidence was not enough and that the accused should be acquitted on all the charges. Now, to further explain to us how the state is perhaps feeling about where this case is going, we've seen today the state quite confident in its approach, Pindi, in its heads of arguments, particularly relating to the evidence that it has brought before the court. Talk to us about, how we got to this point and the evidence that came as a result of the investigations that went into it.
Indeed, yes. It was a long journey. Credit must go to Mr. Mabunda, the investigating officer, working closely with Advocate Rihanna Williams in ensuring that the state is ready to bring a formidable case before court. Hence, today, Advocate Rihanna Williams argued that as the state, we believe we have done enough. We have presented enough evidence in court for the court to come to an informed decision. We have brought before court witnesses that should be found to have given credible evidence. We pleaded with the court that we presented a solid case, and therefore the only inference that the court could draw from all the evidence that we have presented in court is only the fact that the accused should be found guilty of all the offenses that were preferred against her, because we believe we have managed to prove beyond reasonable doubt as the state that there is no any other person but only the accused who should be found to have perpetrated this kind of offenses.
And lastly, how confident are you that you will definitely get a conviction in this particular matter, because the state itself has to pass the test in terms of proving beyond reasonable doubt? And what kind of sentence, if the judge finds her guilty, are you looking at here?
Well, with any other court case, you can never be too confident. The ball is now in the court's hands. We believe that as a state we have done our duty to bring enough information before court, to bring witnesses who are able to corroborate each other in terms of the sequence of events and how things unfolded. And we'll then hear from the court as to whether or not what we presented was enough for the court to come to a conclusion of convicting the accused of all the offences that were preferred against her. And soon after the court has pronounced its verdict in terms of the evidence presented in court, we will then go into the stage of the sentencing arguments in mitigation and aggravation. So as the state, it's then when we will state the kind of sentence that we wish the court to dispense in this case.
All right, Linda Mnisi there. She's the spokesperson of the NPA, saying that they can never be too confident, but they believe that there's enough evidence that has been submitted to the court in terms of those 5 family members, as well as Rosemary's boyfriend, Maurice Mabasa. We saw earlier on, Tammy, in court, Maurice Mabasa's sister, always present in court, in fact saying that she wants to follow this case right till the end, because when we spoke to her earlier on, indicating that at no point did the family think that she would be accused, she would be the same person that is accused of murdering her brother. They did not see this coming, but it is what it is at this particular point. All they want is justice. Quite an emotional journey for her, I might add, Tammy.
Linda Mnisi, thank you very much for that update coming out of the High Court, which is sitting at the Palm Ridge Magistrate Court. The 22nd of October is when judgment will be handed down in that case.